ourselves. So we have pressed recording. So hello everyone, Happy New Year. Let's hope for a better 2021. So I would like, before Tatyana starts presenting, I would like to announce a few changes among our group. From now on, Jolanda Hansen from the University of Glasgow, our amazing webmaster. She's responsible for the amazing job that has been done on our website. She will be our events officer as well. We trust her with that position. We are a team of 4 people that we have become a family. We are very, very glad to be sharing that. So welcome, Yolanda. Yolanda is here. She's going to be our new events officer. If Yolanda wants, she can turn on her camera and she can say hello. Hi, Yolanda. So we would like to welcome you in this new role. And we also have, like, among us, Celia Donil, our amazing social media coordinator. I believe social media are very, very important. And she's going to be our treasurer as well. We trust her with the money of our group. We don't have a lot, but it's something. And welcome everyone. I don't want to drag this more. So welcome, Yolanda. Your first webinar was very, very successful. And we would like to thank you for that. And it was a big success. And now we have the opportunity, and you're going to present, hi. Okay, so the Zoom bomber wasn't, okay. So today we are going to have the opportunity with Tatyana to look a little bit the practical aspect. Many people and many attendees shared with us that they want to know how to stage an activity using corpora. What's the teaching perspective? Do you need to train your students? So today, Tatyana is going to clarify those things. I would like to welcome her. I'm going to disappear for now. You don't need me, you need Tatyana. Don't forget, we're recording. I'm going to upload the certificate of attendance at the end through a WeTransfer link here in the Zoom chat box. Welcome, Tatyana. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Right. Hello. I will share my screen and I will say a couple of words about this presentation in a minute. I am. Yeah. Can you see it? Right. Okay. To start with, I just wanted to say that this is the second presentation and I'm presenting the same material. So if you haven't been to the first presentation, then that's probably okay. But if you have been, then you have to bear with me because I'm presenting, as I say, Penny asked me to present it second time, but with slightly maybe different emphasis, and I will look only at two corpus tools today. So I am going to introduce myself first. I am Tatyana Karpenko-Seccombe and I teach English to international doctorate students at the University of Huddersfield. And I'm going to base what I'm doing on my experience. And obviously you have different cohorts of students, you have different levels of students and different facilities. But I do hope that you can take away something from this presentation so that you can use it in your teaching. But as I say, it is hugely sort of based on what I do with students in my classroom. And I have been using teaching academic writing with corpora for quite some time. The reason for that, I think, is best described by Tom Cobb, who is the creator of Lex Tutor, which I use a lot, and I'm going to show you how I use it in this presentation. So he said at a certain point, students cannot learn everything that it is there from being told, and at some point they need to start observing language and drawing their own conclusions. And with that, with teaching with corpora and data-driven learning, I found that is very sort of useful. Carter and McCarthy's very simple but very effective 3 I's strategy: illustration, interaction, and induction. So I use corpora in my teaching sort of in 2 ways, just to illustrate what I'm saying, sometimes in lectures, in teaching how to sort of use vocabulary, and that is the first I, illustration. But also there is a course that I teach, and it is academic writing, improve your academic writing with corpora, and that is where students do their own searches. So I will look today at 2 corpus tools, Lex Tutor, Concordance, and BNC on the platform of English Corpora. Both tools are free, they're open, they are user-friendly, and that is why I encourage students to use them. So let's start with Lex Tutor. And again, I just want to say that it is something that I do with my students. Maybe you know, you've got different students and they've got different needs, but hopefully you will be able to do something and sort of find something useful in this presentation. So this is the screen, this Lex Tutor Concordance, which was created by Tom Cobb, and it is only a small part of Complete Lexical Tutor, which contains a lot of resources, including vocabulary profiler and some others, but I will concentrate on Concordance tool only. So even though it looks like a sort of busy screen, there are only 4 things that students need to know in the first instance just to start them on it. So first of all, of course, to enter a word, then to choose what we're looking for. If we're looking for the word in the same form as we tapped in, problem, then that's we are choosing equals. Then there is a family choice as well, and I'm going to briefly sort of talk about family a bit later. Then we also need to choose a corpus, and I like Lex Tutor very much because there is a choice of academic corpora. There is academic abstracts, which is small but very useful. Then there is academic general, which is a larger corpus of 6 million. There is more academic writing of 8 million, and there are subcorpora of British National Corpus by subject area, and this is again can be very useful for students. They are sort of reasonable size. So this allows for sort of a lot of variety in searches. And also the last thing the students need to know is to look on the right or left of the keyword, and I will talk a lot about it, how to use these simple searches and what we can do, or what I do usually with it. So that is, if we put this the word problem in, and we get a screen like that, and then we get slightly confused students like that. So first thing I start with is I explain the strategies of reading concordance lines. First of all, we need to scroll up and down. We look on the right and left hand side of the keyword, and also what are we looking for? We're looking for recurrent current patterns of usage. And looking on the right and on the left, I always highlight the importance of looking further than one word, and it will come up in this presentation, the importance of it. So also there's another useful function is to look when we click on a keyword, we can look at the larger context. We can get several paragraphs because as you all know, concordance searches are restricted to one line, so sometimes larger context can be useful. And also looking further than one word, I demonstrate to students with this is sort of a random search, and it immediately shows how much more information is around the word. Like this thesis researches the problem of, or methods that are suitable for problem solving, and so on. So larger units, the lexical bundles or formulaic units which are useful for academic writing are there, and students, I think I have this quote a little bit later, but Alison Ray sort of noticed that students, second language students, usually go for word learning rather than looking at the word in context. They sort of disregard the chain in which the word occurs and just go for learning this word. So I have a quote somewhere later. So word choice is the main application for me and for my students, looking at the word choice and helping students with choosing academic vocabulary. And I will look first how to use this simple search, quick search, keyword in context. Search looking on the right and left of the keyword, and what information students can glean out of it. So first of all, prepositions, and I really like this this quote that the use of prepositions is a concordance's darling, and it is indeed a concordance's darling, because it is a very sort of useful way of introducing students to concordances. They see immediately the result, they see immediately how they can sort of find what prepositions to use, and here are a couple of examples. Differences between, differences in, but different is used with another set of prepositions, in and from. So again, going from illustration to conclusion, students can make their conclusions about the usage. But the most sort of important, I think, usage in word choice is making students aware of collocations, and collocation is the tendency of the words, two words in particular, to appear in each other company, and with frequencies, high frequencies which are more than just occasional by chance. So we will come across problems with collocations in students' writing, and these are a couple of examples from my students' drafts. A need to elaborate a problem. They do not suffer the problem in common hydraulic flow. So again, this simple search of putting the word in, looking on the left of the keyword and trying to find appropriate collocate, verbal collocate, can help with that. And the verbs that are there can be found, that to overcome, to address, to bear on, to remedy, to approach, and then of course students can repair again with interaction, with the help, with scaffolding. They can choose an appropriate word, or discussing it in group, and then sort of improve the sentence. Also, repetitive language, as you know, could be the problem. And again, it is easy to find the alternatives to a repetitive language. Adjectival collocates also in the same way, the keyword and looking on the left of the keyword and picking out the adjectives that collocate with a problem in academic language, in academic corpus, in academic surrounding, and that would be more appropriate collocates to the ones that sometimes are used, like big problems of simplistic language, or huge, enormous, which is not terribly academic. So the choice again is there. And we can do various things with this choice. We can, for example, split class into groups, which I do sometimes, and one group try to remember for example, alternative ways of saying big problems, of alternatives to big, and another group tries to use concordances, and I always know which group wins. So they always find on the concordance many more examples of alternative ways. Would I, by sort of looking at the appropriate collocates is also quite useful as an alternative to looking in thesauri, and that's what students very often do. They sort of by default go to thesaurus while paraphrasing, and they find a word, and maybe it is an appropriate word, but maybe not. Sometimes it is just, it could be a colloquial word like great, big, or massive, or gigantic. Whereas if we look at the collocates in the concordance, the collocates of problem, then students may be absolutely sure that these are the words that collocate with a particular word, and also that they are used in academic writing. So that's another sort of way in which I encourage students to use it. We can also look at, let's take another sort of search solution and look on the left, and there are quite a few of adjectives, and the choice is great, but what do we do with these masses? First of all, we can have a look at how authors use them, what kind of strengths they are. Tentative, they can be tentative, they can be strong, and again in sort of interaction, second eye in discussion, we can decide which ones are stronger, which ones are more cautious, and then we can start a conversation about which ones are more appropriate to your particular writing, to students' particular situation, whether they will go for strong or for cautious, why, and so on. So in the list of strong strong sort of modifiers of solution, there is also perfect, and I know that we all discourage students from using a language like that, perfect. So it is quite interesting to look into how perfect is used. So I've looked through Lex Tutor, various corpora, academic, general, bore, and medicine, and I found perfect, the instances, quite rare, but still there. So if students look into how they're used, they could see that they are actually used in negative constructions. Never found a perfect solution. There's no perfect solution. None has found a perfect solution. And two other instances were sort of heavily hedged, seemed like, twice in Boer corpora. So this is also shows the value of looking further than one word, and looking at the context in which the word is used. All right, so that was all about looking on the right and on the left hand side of the keyword, and you can see that we can glean a lot of information out of these simple searches, really simple searches. Another very simple thing that we can do is to make frequencies work for students, and frequencies are in Lex Tutor Concordance above the concordance lines here, and they are presented in two ways, into numbers, just the general number of hits per corpus, and also standardized per million, which allows us to compare with other corpora. So here they are. And that's what we can do with them. We can use these frequency values to, again, to highlight the usage, the academic style of a particular text. So in academic abstracts, increase is used 257 times per million, but go up is not used at all. But admittedly, academic abstracts is a small corpus, so we can look in commerce corpus, for example, and in commercial texts. Again, increase is used quite consistently, whereas go up is a rare occasion. So that again brings to the students the difference between these two, and difference is quite striking. Illustration, that is the first I, and then interaction and induction following. Frequencies of verbs of speaking is also quite useful, because it was just yesterday when a student in a tutorial asked me, well, I'm using say, but what are the alternatives? And the first thing that I did, I showed him this table saying, well, a say is not necessarily the best option. The say is again appears in academic text, but with low frequencies, and much higher frequencies are the verbs state and argue. And also the second sort of helpful sort of thing would be for the student to look at alternative reporting verbs by for example, searching the author in Lex Tutor, and again looking on the right hand side, and there is a variety of reporting verbs here as an alternative to the author says. In the same way, by comparing frequencies, we can sort of indicate that some phrases and words are not appropriate for academic writing. And this is an example from students' draft, where she used to get rid of problems, and then we looked at get rid of in a tutorial, one-to-one tutorial. We looked at get rid of, and we looked at eliminate, and obviously the result is clear. We can this is another one from the consultation, from the one-to-one consultation, where student she was overusing aforementioned quite a lot, and then we looked together at aforementioned with in comparison with above, and of course the comparison showed to her that it has to be used sort of in much smaller quantities. We can look at other things and find other things, important things, from just looking at frequencies. For example, this is the task that I give to students, sometimes to find the frequencies out, sometimes just I present them with this with these numbers, and ask them to interpret them, why, for example, these three are much more commonly used than practically, absolutely, and basically. And it is interesting how it makes students think and then reconsider their usage of these adverbs, but also they do come up with explanation that for example, absolutely is not used that often, because academic authors are trying to avoid sort of absolute statements. And we can also explore the use of hedges and boosters, and for example, looking at definitely, which can be, as you all know, overused, and the searches in different corpora shows that it is much more used in learner student writing than in proficient and expert writing. Again, is pretty sort of obvious. Looking at hedging, as well. The most, we all sort of discourage students from using superlative degrees, but when we look at numbers, they're quite high. However, if we look at the context, at the collocations of the most, we can find that it is used mostly and predominantly with hedges, like perhaps, for example, is the third most frequent collocate of the most, and there are also probably and amongst and among and arguably and possibly, but also it appears in quotes, as this screen shows. It appears a lot in quotes. So authors try not to say the most, but they can quote somebody on saying that. And this is sort of giving more examples of that and looking into concordance lines that show how the authors use it. You can see that the most is used when quoting other authors by many Afro-American literary scholars to be the most glamorous, or from Stevenson's point of view, or just generally is considered to be. So the author distances him or herself from using the most. And also it appears with in-hedged sort of situations like appears to be, is likely to be, turns out to be, seems to be, appears to be, and so on. So really consistently, and that again shows students that even though the numbers are high, if we look around for the context, we can find that that context tells us something interesting, quite a different story. Now, looking into multi-word units, and this is very important for the simple reason that, as Alison Ray said there, who studied formulaic languages, she said that this is a key to native-like idiomaticity. And also, this is the quote I was looking for, that second language learners are likely to discard the word strings they encounter, going for just a word, not the word string on its own. That is why looking at multi-word units is very important. So in looking for multi-word units, we can look at wildcard searches and find the look for the frames. It is asterisk that. If we look for that, if we put that in the search window, then we can get all kinds of words that fill the fillers, that Biber calls them, the fillers of this frame. And this is very important to see how proficient expert writers fill these frames, what they fill this frame with, because they are all evaluative adjectives, and evaluation is quite important, but also right kind of evaluation. So these are 5-word units, which are sort of half sort of rigid strings. Again, it is a frame with fillers. It is necessary to support, for example, or it is possible to detect. It is critical to analyze, and so on. Why it is important? Because sort of based on the research by Utaroma, introductory it pattern in students writing or a learner writing sometimes is filled. The fillers are strong emotional words and opinionated words, whereas also the colloquial words, whereas expert writers use this structure to use evaluative and evaluation of sort of academic sort. For paraphrasing, I also use and encourage students to use concordances for paraphrasing. And here we are looking at the form of the word, and we're not looking at equals, we're looking at family here. So if we run a search on a word for example, define, and we run a family search in it, then it will show all the forms like define, definitions, defining, redefine, and here in the yellow sort of box, it shows sort of helpfully helpfully the frequencies of them, so we can understand how frequent these forms are. But also they're useful for paraphrasing, because by using different forms, students can paraphrase the sentence. So that's the task that I set sometimes to the students. Role of government in the capital planning process will need to be defined differently, and then the task is to find out other forms of the word define, and sort of rewrite this sentence with different forms, redefinition, redefining, and so on. Help with grammar, we can find also some help with grammar, particularly with tenses. I'm not going to talk about other ways, but I'm just talk about grammar. Tenses, again, very easy to illustrate how present perfect is used with recent, how past perfect is used with dates, for example. Also, we can go a little bit further and look at how writers, what tenses writers use to present their study, and they can see that present simple prevails, and it is much better for them to discover it for themselves rather than sort of me telling them. There are a couple of instances of past simple, and that actually reflects the general percentage of present simple as opposed to past simple. Also interesting in this case to go for past simple and see why it is used, for example, by clicking on the word this study in this sentence. We can pull out a larger context and analyze it with students why past simple is used in particular case. So also, as I say, we can go a little bit further than just demonstration. We can ask what tenses are used, for example, to talk about the research gap. And if we search for little research, we can see, students can see that consistently present simple is used, and passive as well. So we can analyze the examples from here and see how a research gap has been introduced by the authors. Also lexico-grammatical patterns. I will give a very sort of quick example, but it's sort of it's very useful in cases when students make mistakes like that, avoid to make similar mistakes. So confusing infinitive and gerund, and instead of sort of learning lists and lists of verbs that are used with infinitive, that are used with gerund, and that are used with both. It is easy to check, to avoid, and they can see that this is followed either by a noun or by an ing form, by a gerund, and then there won't be any instances of infinitive in this case. So it is again easy and a sort of painless way of finding how the pattern is used. This is another example of looking at lexico-grammatical patterns, and you will recognize this mistake, which is quite common. This is the reason because this method was used. The reason shows the search for the word reason as a keyword shows two very strong patterns, reason for and reason why, and there are no instances of the reason because. So this is again a very quick way of for students to remember how to use this construction. So that I've covered quite a lot of the material, and I tried to, you know, using just Lex Tutor. Now I'm going to look at how BNC can be used, and BNC is British National Corpus, on Mark Davis's platform, English Corpora. It is 100 million words, and it has got 15 million word section of academic English. It hasn't got division by subject areas, but it has got sources, so you can see from what journal, from what source the particular example is taken. So this is first of all the it is a very sort of friendly interface. You just put the word in, you specify whether you're looking on the right or on the left of the keyword in a slightly different way, and then you can choose the section, and it is the subcorpus of academic language which we are interested in. It's got quite a few tools. They are again very rich. It's incredibly rich resource, very rich and complicated, but it can be as complicated or as easy as we want it to be. So I will show only three of those. I will show how I use quick, collocate, and chart for students, again for illustrating what I'm saying, or for their own searches when they are using it on their own. So as I mentioned already, the sections, and we can find here academic, so we can look at academic if we want to compare the usage of a word in different in different sections or between different genres, then we don't need to choose academic here. But one big distinction between Lex Tutor and BNC on English Corpora platform is that it allows us to search by parts of speech, and this is something that I find really, really useful and important here. So we can click on insert part of speech and for example, choose noun. If we look at increase, I'll just show you the results of the searches. If we look at increase as a noun, and in quick search, and also on the right hand side there's always a brief description, very useful brief description of the tool that we're using. So if we look at the noun in keyword in context search, we can get a very similar screen, but it is really nicely color coded. We're getting and all the nouns in teal, and all the verbs in magenta. So yeah, here the column on the left shows the sources here, so you can see that these are a biography, or a political law, or commerce, or Hansard, or medicine, and so on. We can actually click on the word to see a larger context in the same way as it is in Lex Tutor. Okay, and here also we need to encourage students to look for recurrent patterns, and they can be, you know, at a sort of more beginner level, just looking for prepositions, as in this example, account, which is used as a verb, which is used preferably with for, account for, or at a more maybe advanced level, to the usage of the word fathom, and looking on the left hand side, which shows that fathom is used in negative sentences exclusively. So again, looking for recurrent patterns, but as I say, in the color-coded, beautiful sort of mode. Again, they very similar search. I'm just want to show how much information we can get out of one search, and this is again introducing research gap. If we look for little research and put it in the search box, then we can find on the right hand side the verbs, the choice of verb: carry out, conduct, and do. Also, we can look and find out and help students find out the tenses, also prepositions, and on the left hand side we can find or draw students' attention to evaluative adverbs, for example, remarkably little attention, or relatively little attention, or surprisingly little attention. So that is quite interesting as well. So a lot of information about around introducing research gap can be sort of understood from one search. Also, in the same way, students can find reporting verbs in British National Corpus, previous studies, and what verbs are used with that, earlier research, and what verbs are used with that, together with obviously verb forms and tense forms. I'll show you one search that I find really interesting, and this is when I put in the search box a full stop, and that allows me to see the beginnings of the sentences, and I demonstrate to students how many of the sentences start with connection to the previous, pointing backwards or pointing forwards. So this is quite interesting for that. For example, first, finally, consequently, concerning, that is again pointing backwards, but pointing backwards, however, and as will be explained below. So the percentage is quite high, and this is also important for students to see really obviously how authors prefer to make connections, or how they make a special point of connecting sentences. Another tool here is chart, and chart also works with frequencies, as we've seen in Lex Tutor, but chart presents, as the name suggests, presents frequencies in a chart. And again, I find it really, really obvious for illustration, for showing students the particular peculiarities of academic writing and the differences from other genres of writing. So, and again, on the right hand side, you can see a brief description of this tool. So frequency in academic style of wonderful and horrendous, again in comparison with spoken and fiction and magazine, and horrendous in comparison again with spoken fiction and magazine. It is quite small. The frequencies are quite small, and this is very, very sort of visual, very illustrative, and in the same way, big problem, which we looked at before. This sort of simplistic language is more typical for spoken than for academic writing. So this is sort of a visual sort of support or presentation of something that we usually say in our classes. I also find that some students of mine overuse verbs like illuminate or shed light. And I've sort of developed a little task for that. I ask them to rank the verbs illuminate, reveal, shed light, clarify, and explain in the order of frequency, and then to check their own intuition by looking on the concordances. And here's the results. And and the results can show that shed light and illuminate actually very similar frequencies and very low frequencies in comparison with others, and that comes as quite a surprise for students who try to use them far too often. And another tool which is incredibly useful, it is collocates, because in Lex Tutor we used it, we looked at collocates and we can do it in quick search in BNC as well. But there is a special sort of tool which allows us to find collocates, and they will be presented as a list. So if we want to look at what adjectives modify problem, we can use the part of speech of the colloquy here, and we can use academic subcorpus, and we look on the left hand side of the keyword problem. So that gives us a list of adjectives in the ranked by frequency. There's major is the most frequent, and then particular, serious, real, and big is nowhere to be seen here. So in the same way, if we are interested in the verbs that are used with problem, again we change the setting from adjective to verb, and again we get this result, and we can click on the word to see larger context as we get the larger context in Lex Tutor. So this is a tackling used with problem to tackle the problem, and again there is a source here, and if we're interested we can see even larger context of that. So from that point of view, I just sometimes ask students to find out, again based on the mistakes that I find in their writing, which adjectives are used with spectrum, for example. Is it big, broad, large, or wide? And a search that they need to do, they need to devise this search. And again, if they need some scaffolding at this stage, then that's fine. So collocates, of course, spectrum in the search window, adjective as a collocate, and looking on the left hand side of the keyword, and these are results, and results show that it is broad and wide, and others are not used. What is I also, there's another feature I wanted to draw your attention to, and this is this little square. So this is the column that is filled with all kind of sort of wonders. If we click on this little square, there'll be a little tick. That tick will appear, and then we click on the actual word broad. It shows us a lot of information about this particular word. There will be a definition, there will be synonyms, collocations, clusters in which it appears, all sorts of links, and also concordances. So this is the screen that the students can get, that we can get. It is very useful if we need to look sort of deeper into this word. As I said, there are synonyms, there are typical clusters, broad range, and very broad, and so on. And then there are topics in which it appears. Again, everything can be expanded, so it is a treasure trove if you or your students have time or inclination to do that. So a lot of the tasks that I've been looking at, they are covered in my book, which Penny mentioned, and this book sort of has got three major areas where I look at observing and using language patterns, and again, prepositions, word choices, things that we've been talking about today, help with grammar, lexical, grammatical patterns, connections, and paraphrase, and then using corpora to write for different academic purposes, how we can use it, and that is based on the needs of my students, of PhD students, and but also maybe in essay writing, argumentative writing, stance and voice. We had some examples of that as well, and comparing and contrasting reasons, causes and effects, problems and solutions. Some of the examples were sort of around this, talking about problems and solutions. And also the last section is about writing research papers with corpora, and again, the help that writers can get in writing each sort of section. Like in writing literature reviews, we've seen some examples of reporting verbs, some formulaic language that is used around writing literature reviews, and so on. If you are interested, there are quite a lot. It is just tasks, very practical, and it is the book that I just thought I would have liked to have when I started teaching. So that's where I'm coming from with it. And the tasks there are 210 tasks, just tasks there with screenshot, and there's ample amount of screenshots so that students can check. So it is useful for independent work, because students can check their searches with screenshots. That is why there's a lot of screenshots there. There's a really large section of answers, so that answers can be used formatively, so that students can sort of check and correct their searches and their sort of induction eye at the end. Tables again are there for students to fill in. So this book is now on sale, and there is a 20% discount with this code, or you can download for free one chapter of it. So I think that's all I wanted to say, and if you have any questions, you are very welcome.
Thank you, Tatyana. That was a very, very informative session, very, very inspiring. Let's see if we have a few questions. There is a question. Are there any journal or genre journal subcorpus?
Journal subcorpus, right. I think that in British National Corpus there is magazine and newspaper, and in Lex Tutor there is also, let me scroll to the beginning, in Lex Tutor, yes, we have no, not necessarily there is, but I think in British National Corpus, magazine and newspaper, yes. In Lex Tutor, just have a look. These are not all of the corpora that are there. You can find a lot more there. It is, but yeah, the obvious ones would be in BNC. Yeah.
I have a question, if I may ask you.
Okay.
I think maybe that's a question many of our attendees may have in their minds. So, for example, I go into my classroom and we're revising academic corpora. In my mind, personally, I don't think we need to explain to our students in much detail what is Lex Tutor. And this is something I always have in my mind. Like, they're not language teachers. It is just a tool for them to do a specific job. We don't have to go into the specifics. So what do you say to your students? I mean, you go into the classroom and you say, hi, please fire away Lex Tutor. How you do that?
First of all, I start it may be funny, but I start teaching sort of collocations with showing them. I bought it somewhere on one of my trips, you know, the chain, the plastic chain, and then the plastic cubes. And I just show them how students connect words by joining these several cubes together, and how in reality words live in a chain. And that's how I start. And I just say that we need to look at these chains, and how we can look at these chains. Let's help ourselves with looking at the word in the middle and what's going around it. So that is my own sort of way. Yes, and yeah, I just start with saying why they need it, because they need to see the chains, they need to see the context in which the word is used, they need to see the word in a particular corpus, and that's all they can do by choosing a corpus and looking on the right and the left of the keyword. That's why I sort of looked in this presentation at this sort of minimal student sort of input, or not input. What I mean is that the minimal sort of amount of stuff the students need to know about the actual tool. They need to know how to put the word in, they need to choose equal, they need to choose corpus and look on both sides. So that is basically is very doable, and they can do it without thinking about other things that are here, and then they may discover them as they go along, or they may just stay with where they are, and that would help at this point too.
Personally, and I want you to confirm if what I'm going to do is right, I'm going to go into the classroom and I'm going to use Lex Tutor, and they're going to ask me, what is that? And I will tell this is a huge bank. It's all the English we can find. And we need to look into this huge bank of academic English if obvious is being used. I have a huge problem with obvious.
Okay.
Every tutor I know has, their own, something they get stuck, okay? I hate obvious. So someone is asking, very interesting question. So do you use corpora when you teach native speakers of English? How do they react? Are they engaged? Very, very good question.
Right. So I'll tell you a few words about sort of our setup. I work in Academic English Center, which is for international students. We advertise our services for home students as well. We're saying that home students are welcome, and but they are sort of basically a rare guests in our classrooms. I do encourage them to come to the tutorials and to join the tutorials, because that will be, I can then give them a much more specific advice specific to their needs. So I did show it to some home students, and they, well, just recently I had a home student in the course of summarizing and paraphrasing, and I was demonstrating something, and one of the students, the home students, Leah, she said, I'm really fascinated by this, can you show it to me? And she came for a tutorial. So it is on a very sort of informal basis. Home students are not our main target, but they happen to be there. If they happen to be there, if they happen to be interested, then of course I explain how to use it. Very highly proficient international students are also interested. So it is, it's not necessarily the question of the level of a student, because some students come, home students, not from the necessarily sort of academic background. They come from industries, they don't know. And I had quite a few students in fashion industry who come from actually from industry, and they are used to dealing with journals, with newspapers, with fashion magazines, with advertising their stuff, and their style needs sort of adjusting, because they are writing in that kind of style, and that's where I recommend concordances and looking at academic style as opposed to the style that they use, which is more sort of a newspaper style, magazine, glossy
Good.
magazine style.
Like, I have a
Yeah.
question from Greece. So we have someone asking, like, if you're using corpora, not, for example, with PhDs about language. For example, have you encountered like medical students who are doing a PhD or engineering students? What about fields that they're not, language related? Are they interested in corpora? Are corpora useful for them?
Yes, corpora is useful for them. And if you allow me just 1 minute, I will try and find you an example
Yeah, absolutely.
of, yeah, is that all right? Just find you one example of subject specific use of corpora, because it will be much more, I think, useful if I.
While Tatiana is trying to find something, I would like to let you know that I have attached the certificate of attendance through a WeTransfer link, just in case you have connected through your phone or your iPad. It's a new design of our certificate of attendance. I am not a graphic designer. Please let me know if I can change anything. Okay. It's the colors are a combination of the bulb colors, the green color, and our TELSIG color, which is the blue. So please let me know if I should change anything regarding the design. And let's go back to Tatiana. So she found.
Right. So it's just a couple of examples of subject-specific writing. Of course, we can use subject-specific corpora in Lex Tutor to show that. Then I use MyCasp, which allows a lot of subject-specific searches, because by discipline or by type of paper. And that's what, for example, we can find using MyCasp. We can find out how I is used in different subject areas, how argument is used, for example, in argument and problem. If we look at the frequencies of argument, it is used in sort of mainly, predominantly in humanities, and problem, it's sort of a bit of a mixed bag, and it is used in medicine and in computer sciences and so on. So these are sort of bigger problems, how people lay out this material, talking about arguments or talking about problems. And for subject specific use is one of my favorite examples is sort of we can build a DIY corpus. And I once had a student who came to me and said, well, I don't know how to say to make apoptosis. And I could barely sort of understand what apoptosis is, which is, now I know, I'm enlightened. It's a cell death. So what we did with her immediately, we created, she had on her 5 articles about apoptosis. We created a corpus, really quick and dirty corpus, looked for apoptosis in AntConc, and she found the host of the uses of apoptosis, how it is used with verbs, and then she chose the ones that she actually felt expresses what she wants, apoptosis, to make. So it's not to make, obviously, but it is to induce, to trigger, to promote. And she also went for 2 sort of noun phrases, execution of and
Mention
apoptosis
at this
event.
point, of course,
So that is.
apoptosis is a Greek word. Okay, so I think we should mention that.
Yeah, we should. Right. So that is just small examples, but how it can be used in subject, in different subject areas. First of all, at different stages, at early stages, just choosing subject specific corpus, maybe in Lex Tutor here, or going for MyCasp with subject specific areas where you can see a larger chunks of text and browse in them, and also from looking at DIY corpora built from the text in their subject area. where they can find the terminology that is important for their writing. Yeah.
Someone is asking a question about MyCasp. What type of corpus is that? Tatyana, if you can share with us a few sentences.
Okay, it's Michigan University. Again, just bear with me. So, it is wonderful in its own right, and I also like it very much, and I use it in the book and in my studies. So it's got a wealth of, it's got a slightly different interface. So you can put a word here, for example, yeah. And then you can choose. The choices are really useful. Students level, and because I'm teaching PhD students, I go for graduate students, and then you can use the nativeness. You can sort of compare native, non-native speakers if you wish, for maybe for your own research. We can choose textual features, which is also quite interesting. We can look at just abstracts, or just literature reviews, or methodology sections, or okay, let's choose abstracts, for example. And the paper types, argumentative, essay, or reports. Again, it's a very finely tuned instrument. So we can look at sort of everything here. And then these disciplines, somebody mentioned disciplines, so you can choose by discipline. There's quite a variety of disciplines here. So if we look at a problem, that shows us how a problem is used in abstracts, for example, and we can look at the examples. And we find that there are not just examples, we can look at the whole paper. Yeah, so examples come in large, they don't come in concordance lines, they come in large paragraphs. And here are the subject areas. So we can limit the subject area to biology only, to see how the word problem is used in biological texts. And then if we are interested, we can go for the whole text, which is amazing. We can see the whole setup of the text, how it is written, the small essay, and look at where problem appear, how it is used, the introduction, and so on, the whole paragraph. So that is MyCasp, Michigan University, a resource, again, free and easily accessible, and also very, very useful.
Anyway, if you don't have any other questions, we're going to wrap up our webinar. More than 100 people, again, Tatyana, attended our webinar. People
I'm
are
very, very
really
pleased.
excited
Yes.
and interested in corpora. I can see that from myself as well. So I would like to thank you all. Thank you, Tatyana, for joining us for a second time. If the audience wants, we will be happy to host you for a third time if you want.
Well, thank you. You'll be fed up with me after a bit. So this is my email, and if you're interested in maybe you're very welcome to write with any questions and so on. So please contact me if you need to do so. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me, Panayota. Thank you very much for organizing it. Okay.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. You know that exciting things are coming. If you have like a project, if you would like to present within our group, please feel free to message us. I'm going to post now our email, our valid email. You can send your proposal anytime. We host webinars like at least once per month. We have exciting new things that are coming, innovative things, virtual reality, digital games. Let's try to let's bring EAP to the 21st century. A few people are saying that the certificate looks great. Thank you. You have no idea what I went through to design that for free. Let's hope you like it. Thank you very much. Next week, we have another webinar as well, which is about Collocate from the University of Surrey. A very nice application related to corpora again, something that you can help your students with writing. It's mostly about general academic English. Thank you for coming. And please, if you have any proposal for a webinar, please let us know, send us an email, and we will be there. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
And also,